And thank you very much for the invitation to board members to attend some of the sessions. I was able to attend one. But anyway, thank you, principals, cabinet, Superintendent Forty, for leading such important work. So thank you for that.
And you now have your full board.
Okay, great. All right, we're going to begin with discussion and possible vote on our fiscal 27 operating budget. I just want to summarize as briefly as I can where this process has gone and what it has entailed. Superintendent Forty, her cabinet, principals, vice president, vice principals, and other staff helped compile a budget, I think beginning last October. She presented the budget on January 5th. Since then, the Board of Education has met on January 6th, January 14th, January 15th, January 20th, January 22nd, January 26th, and tonight. In other words, an additional 7 meetings, workshops, and public forums. I want to thank fully Superintendent Forty and her whole leadership team, many of whom are here tonight. Thank you so much for your thoughtfulness and advocacy and explanations as the board has worked its way through budget discussions. When Superintendent Forty presented the budget, she spoke about enrollment going down, yes, some, but also expanding the preschool program. The enrollment decline is spread across the buildings, probably hitting the high school more than some other places, but more a scattering than any one huge hit. Principal Forty reminded us of the district priorities and our mission and our vision and our work around academic excellence and safety, security, school climate, and portrait of the graduate in terms of what we want our results to be. The Board of Ed asked probably 40 to 50 questions. I'm not sure if I got an exact count. Many of those were in writing, and Superintendent Forty and her team, after discussing it with the board, has made available all the questions and all the answers online on our website. So any member of the public who's listening now or later, you are encouraged to go to our website. There's extensive answers to an extensive number of questions. The Board of Ed, we focused on lots of different areas because as Superintendent Forty did in her presentation on the budget, there were 2 major drivers. One is salaries that ran sort of parallel with our contractual obligations. That was a huge driver in the budget. The second, and somewhat of a surprise because it was so large, was health insurance benefits. That started out at 12.5% increase and has since risen to a 15% increase. So between those 2 things, that's health benefits and salaries, that's 80% of our budget. And so the resulting increase of 3.92%, we just were reminded very well through Superintendent Forty's presentation, just where that came from, salaries and benefits. And then there's the remaining 20%. So the Board of Ed had its work cut out, trying to dig into this a little deeper. Basically kind of explore, vet, question, look at it from all different angles. So in those 40 to 50 questions, we covered insurance, of course, technology, maintenance, special education services, class sizes, staffing, academic support services, mental health support programs and services for students, curriculum and instruction. So we sort of dove into each department, some more than others. We absolutely focused on staffing because again, that was a major driver. So again, I want to thank Superintendent Forty and her entire team. We asked a lot of questions about staffing. We asked about just a lot of information about how different roles in different departments worked. And we received answers that contain comparative data. How did we stand in relationship to staffing levels to other districts? We heard descriptions of various positions, their roles, their responsibilities. We talked about caseloads. We talked about the impact of the staffing and the programs that they ran. And we talked about scheduling. We also talked about class sizes. We asked for different models. We looked at different programs. So we tried to look at it basically every which way we could, because again, that's the bulk of where our money, our budget goes into. In health insurance, we had our consultant come in, and there just is no good news about health insurance. It is what it is. Hopefully there'll be some sort of longer term planning as we try to figure out the best approach, especially if health insurance costs continue to stay at this level or even get worse. But not something we have control about. So I think that towards the end of our discussions, that the Board of Ed realized that we either cut staff, which means cutting programs, cutting services, threatening results, threatening our reputation, diminishing services. In other words, harming our quality. And the Board of Ed, in summary, this is my summary, is basically said, let's not and don't mess with excellence. So that's where we have left the discussion about the Board of Education budget. It remains, it came down a tiny, tiny fraction due to some last minute adjustments, but it stands at 3.91%, which is a $2,391,949 increase over last year. $1,257,019 is an increase in the health benefits, and $1,432,666 represent the salary contractual increases. So if you add salary and benefits together, that comes to about a $2.7 million. The rest of the budget, the other 20%, remained flat or contained some reductions in special services. The student needs are changing, the population is shifting a little bit, and we're doing a great job of offering in-house services. Also, kind of a pleasant surprise was utilities. I think for first year I've ever can remember, those expenses have stayed flat. The rest of the line items are either very modest increases or level funding or even some decreases. So that's where we stand. It's a 3.91% increase. And that's my summary of kind of where we have gone. I'm sure I have missed stuff. And I open it up to other board members if you have any additional comments or perspective you'd like to share.
I'm gonna step up and say that I think you did a fantastic job of summing it all up there, Deb. So thank you for doing that. I don't particularly have anything else to add, but completely agree with all of your points there. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, all right.
Can I say something?
Of course. I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand. I'm sorry.
That's right. It's actually not for consumption by Erica and her great staff, nor us. We did a lot of diligence. It's actually sort of a warning for Governor Lamont and his elected officials that if insurance goes up again 15% a year, the quality of education in Connecticut will greatly suffer. So it's an election year, Governor. You got to do something about this. Your staff's got to look at relief for school districts like Weston. So that's my political message for this evening.
I'll just add too, while everyone's on the call and it's a greater group, just want to thank everyone for supporting each other, supporting your staff, and supporting your students. I really learned a lot through this process. Thank you everyone for preparing such detailed responses to our questions.
Right. Any other, if I don't see any other comments, I'm not trying to leave anybody out. I'm just, there's a lot of faces here. All right, so we're at the point where I think we're ready to make a motion. Would someone like to do that?
I'd be happy to do that. Just give me
All right,
a
thank you,
moment.
David.
I gotta get to the right spot in board book. Apologies. Okay. All right, so we're doing the operating budget, right?
Yes,
Okay. Move that the fiscal year 2027 operating budget was presented for review and approved in the amount of $63,490,638, which represents a 3.91% increase from fiscal year 26.
is there a second? Thank
I
you, David.
second.
Thank you, Lisa. Further discussion? All right, all in favor? I'll ask for a show of hands. Any opposed? All right, the operating budget is approved unanimously. Thank you, everyone. And again, thank you to the full staff. Superintendent Forty, do you want to make a couple of comments?
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. This is my very first budget process in Weston. And I'm really grateful, one, to the cabinet for helping to answer all my many questions about the process, and your patience as we worked through the final proposed budget. It was really exhaustive work, and your diligence throughout the process made it really possible for me to learn so much about the district at the same time. And I'm really grateful for that. Phil and his office for being incredibly accessible and really flexible as we worked through many, many meetings, many data sets, and many discussions. Jody for holding us all together with all the documents that we needed along the way. Could not have done it without you. There were papers and binders and data sets and spreadsheets everywhere, and she is just incredible about keeping everything organized and the most updated, revised versions on my desk. And so I'm really grateful to have her by my side. I'm really also very appreciative of our principals and their input and their feedback and the insight that they gave along the way. It was invaluable to constructing the budget, and we could not have done it without them. It really was a collective effort. And as you see here this evening, we have all of our administrators with us. And I'd like to personally thank them also for their contributions at the school and department level, because it trickles up all the way into the operating budget that was just approved by the Board of Ed a few minutes ago. I'd also like to thank the Board of Education for your support and your belief in this budget, for asking some really great questions and giving us the opportunity not only to detail some things throughout the budget, but educate you and the community at large along the way. I think it's really important for us to be transparent in that work. And the more information we can share, the more people understand about the inner workings of our district and what a complex system it is. But so I really do thank the board and their belief in the budget, and remaining confident that it truly is a reflection of the values and the continued excellence that we strive for in Weston, as well as the academic achievement. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Right, that leads to discussion of the fiscal year 27 capital budget. I'm going to try to summarize this as well, and I will hopefully not mess it up, but that's why we have such excellent staff and some very attentive and smart board members. So correct me if I get any of this incorrect. Yesterday at our workshop, we spent most of the time looking at the capital budget, and we really appreciate Phil Cross and Mike Del Mastro for describing each and every item on that capital budget and also prioritizing them. We all noticed that there's been a change to the capital budget since the January 5th presentation. And that is the addition of the North House HVAC project has been added. And it's also been added in its gross amount. In other words, before any reimbursement from the state. Why did this happen? As I understand it, the grant process for state reimbursement changed on July 1st, making it impossible to do the work this summer if we have any hope for a state reimbursement, which would be around 22%. So the project will not move forward this summer, but will hopefully move forward next summer. This is certainly unfortunate, but again, we cannot risk losing a potential 22% reimbursement, which works out to be around $500,000. This is a big add to our capital request, and how to finance this amount is certainly a question. It is not in our purview in terms of which financial approaches or tools to use. But assuming the capital budget moves forward, approved by the Board of Ed, the Board of Selectmen, and then the Board of Finance, there'll be different approaches at the Board of Finance's discretion. The tax levy is only one such approach. There's also, importantly, the state reimbursement. Right now it stands at 22%. Whether there are other grant areas to investigate, we will have some time for that. The general fund is also a source, and so is bonding is also an approach. So those are financial approaches, the financial arena, which is the Board of Finance's purview and responsibility. So I think that's where we stand. Phil, did I leave anything out? I think that was a thumb up.
It was. I think that
Okay.
you covered everything.
All right, thanks. Okay, so yesterday our Board of Ed, certainly everyone regrets the holdup on the North House project, but certainly does not want to risk the 500,000. And also we had a lot of discussion about all the other items, and that how A, important they are, B, that deferring or delaying or reducing them has the impact of basically, I think somebody used the several board members used the term kicks the can down the road and causes an even greater buildup later on. And also the board felt strongly that not only did these projects need to get done, but that the board wanted to make sure that we're upfront and that we include our needs. And we don't not talk about them, we don't keep putting them off on another list, thereby kind of potentially surprising people in the future. So the amount now stands, and again, this is with the gross amount included for the North House at $4,720,000 or $720 and $200. I probably messed that up in terms of pronunciation, but you all understand that. All right, so are there other board comments? If I missed anything, please correct me or add.
Deb, I think you summed that up really well. And we had quite a bit of discussion yesterday, and I think that summarizes it really quickly.
Okay, thanks.
I think the only thing that I wanted to add in here
Yeah.
is I looked at the revised sheet that Phil, you had sent around to us today. I think that we still have the incorrect amount for the central office HVAC. I think that needs to be corrected. So if we could do that, that'd be great. But that's the only thing that I wanted to add in there. Details.
Okay, that's important.
Yeah, I just took a look. Sharon, you're right.
All right. Thanks.
We will make that correction before we send it off to the Board of Selectmen.
Great. Thank you.
Okay.
Hey, Phil, just a quick question on this. I want to double click again. on the North House HVAC replacement that we're adding back. How firm are we on this number? Is this number, just for everyone's benefit here, the $2.4 million gross number prior to the grant, or factoring the amount of the grant? How firm are we on that number? That's a total number, correct, for labor, for all the mechanicals, for all the installation? Are we firm on that number, Phil? Is that plus or minus? What is your view on the 2.4? Because this is one of those things where, again, we discussed it last year and passed it. I want to make sure it gets done, but also, I don't want to necessarily sit here next year and say, wow, this thing is actually not 2.4, it's 2.6, it's 2.8. And, we misjudged sort of the increase here that we were going to assume over the next year. So if you can give a little bit more specific around that number, that would be great.
Sure. So this number is pretty much as firm as we can be as of late October, early November. This number includes some contingencies at various levels, and in addition, above the base price. It is possible that within the next year or so, right? So right now, these are costs with an estimate that a project will start in the near term. There could be some small escalation, but I would not say that those increases would be significant. Of course, any increases that we do would need some approval by the board, but I do not anticipate any significant increase. With that said, we have to be mindful, right, that the estimate that we have in the design phase may be somewhat different from what we have on when we do receive responses from our proposal. So as of right now, the numbers is as firm as we can have them.
Phil, I have a quick question on the North House. I think it was last year, there was some amount of money approved for the design. Is that work still happening? Is that work part of the 2.4 million? Where are we at relative to the design?
Sure. So last year, 230,000 was approved for their design. The project, we have not stopped working on this project. This project is ongoing. Right now, we're pretty much in, I would say, on the final phase of the design. We should have that design specs in-house by the end of this week into early next week. So we do have fun for that, and the work has not stopped.
Okay. So from a kind of a phasing perspective, the design work will be done prior to, essentially in parallel with, or by time this goes into our budget then goes to a referendum. At that point, the town we have the design, we have essentially what I presume to be a hard cost from a vendor based on the design. So what happens between, let's say, next week when we get that design and you give it to the vendor? Is it then bid out to 3 vendors because of the dollar amount, or there's been a vendor selected?
Now, at this point, once it's approved, we're technically on hold until the referendum vote. We cannot move forward with this project until the state has reviewed, or the DS has reviewed and also approved, and then authorize us to issue an RFP. So from this point on, we're sort of kind of in the holding phase in terms of the work that needs to happen. Well, in terms of a vote and submission, but any work that we need to do, will continue that.
And if it goes out to bid and the number comes in wildly higher, is that just a risk that we take, or does the state reimbursement get adjusted based on actuals?
Yeah, it gets a little complicated, and that's one of the reasons why we made that adjustment from the 1.9 we discussed yesterday to the 2.4 that we have. The state has two conflicting language in terms of amounts and what amount needs to be approved and appropriated. It is a risk that we take, right? There's, I think, in section 10.291 that talks about that we cannot undertake a project unless it's been fully funded. So the risk that we have is that a project comes in a little bit higher than what we anticipate. But in terms of what we need to do, it's a risk, David. Hopefully it will not be anything greatly significant that will stall the project.
Okay, but ultimately, the risk and the reimbursement are completely separate from each other. So in other words, this project needs to be done. It was essentially approved last year. Now we have an opportunity to get some reimbursement from the state. But the cost of the project is not dependent on how much the state reimburses us. The project cost is the project cost. So, right. So that's at the end of the day that the reimbursement is not going to change what the cost of the project is. The cost of the project is what the vendor says the cost of the project is. And then we go for the reimbursement from the state, which is based on what the vendor actually says the project cost is or what we're estimating it to be.
Correct. So the price that we have right now, it's firm. The conversation that we're going to have about the North House will not end tonight. There definitely will be other conversation in the upcoming months, regardless whether it has to be approval of an ed spec, just talking about the project in general, approval of the design itself. So this is going to be an ongoing process, and we will continue to have discussions regarding the North House in the months to come.
Great. Thanks, Phil.
I'd like to say something. Again, excellent work by the superintendent, staff, and diligence by the board. We're bumping up against $5 million capital budgets. If you look 2, 3, 4 years out, we're there again. I cannot blame the governor on this one. This is a kind of Weston self-inflicted wound. The time has come. Anticipate significant expenditures just to keep the lights on. I think, again, Erica, I think the questions Michael asked just now and David asked are exactly dead on about escalation, about certainty. There is escalation, there is uncertainty. We're going to have to learn to live with that, and Phil's going to have to grind it out to mitigate that. So good luck to all of us.
Okay, thank you. Good questions, good comments. And thank you, Phil, for your answers. Any other questions, discussion about the capital budget? All right, there is some emotion language, but I know there needs to be a correction. Phil, how do you want to handle that?
I think the correction has been made.
Oh, it has been?
Yes, I had sent out a revised agenda to everybody.
Well,
So your
okay.
cheat sheet has that motion language, but David, it should be in board book for you if you have that up.
Yeah, I was just comparing the cheat sheet language from the board book language because I don't want to get the dollar amount wrong.
All right, thank you.
I
Because
can't.
I don't even have
can't
it up,
fund it.
so thank you.
Yeah.
Board book has the most recent update.
Okay. I'm ready to roll.
Okay, thank you. Go.
All right. Move that the fiscal year 27 capital budget was presented for review and approved in the amount of $4,720,200.
I second.
Okay, is there further discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, unanimously approved. So thank you, everyone. Staff, board members, Phil, thank you. Okay, that ends both of our items on the agenda. That I think means that our Thursday meeting, which was if we needed it for further discussion on the budget, but I don't think we do unless Erica or Phil need to tell us differently. No more discussion. Great. Okay, for now. So let us cancel that Thursday meeting. And that brings us, do we need a motion to cancel that, Jody, or? Okay,
No, you don't.
okay. Great. So then, but we do need a motion to adjourn. And again, we want to make sure, from the board, that we truly thank everyone who was here tonight. We know that you all have had different parts and perspectives in building and presenting and proposing and explaining and answering and comparing and researching all of our answers. All is truly appreciated. And I want to thank my fellow board members for, I think this has been a very effective team in terms of all your different questions and your different perspectives and wisdom that you bring. So I'm hoping everybody feels it was a thorough process and obviously I think very successful result. So with that said, is there a move to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you, Lisa. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
All right, good night, everyone.